Indiana man convicted of killing 4 people, including his brother and his sister's fiancé decades ago, was put to death Wednesday, marking the state's first execution in 15 years. Joseph Corcoran, 49, was pronounced dead at 12:44 a.m. Central Standard Time at the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City, Indiana. The Indiana Department of Corrections said in a statement, Corcoran was scheduled to be executed with the powerful sedative pentobarbital, but the state agency's statement did not mention that drug. Corcoran's execution was the 24th in the U.S. this year. He was convicted in the July 1997 shootings of his brother, 30-year-old James Corcoran, his sister's fiancé, 32-year-old Robert Scott Turner, and 2 other men, Timothy G. Bricker, 30, and Douglas A. Stillwell, 30. According to court records, before Corcoran fatally shot the 4 victims, he was under stress because the forthcoming marriage of his sister to Turner would necessitate moving out of the Fort Wayne, Indiana, home he shared with his brother and sister. While jailed for those killings, Corcoran reportedly bragged about fatally shooting his parents in 1992 in northern Indiana's Steuben County. He was charged in their killings but acquitted. Last summer, Governor Eric Holcomb announced plans to resume state executions following a years-long hiatus marked by a scarcity of lethal injection drugs nationwide. The state provided limited details about the execution process, and no media witnesses were permitted under state law. However, Corcoran chose a reporter for the Indiana Capital Chronicle as one of his witnesses, the Indiana Politics website reported. Indiana and Wyoming are the only 2 states that do not allow members of the media to witness state executions. According to a recent report by the Death Penalty Information Center, Corcoran's sole remaining hope then became Holcomb, who could have commuted Corcoran's death sentence. But that commutation never came and the execution proceeded as scheduled. At midnight, a group of activists who opposed the death penalty began singing Amazing Grace. Holcomb's office released a statement early Wednesday following Corcoran's execution. Joseph Corcoran's case has been reviewed repeatedly over the last 25 years, including 7 times by the Indiana Supreme Court and 3 times by the U.S. Supreme Court, the most recent of which was tonight. His sentence has never been overturned and was carried out as ordered by the court, Holcomb said in the statement. Indiana's last state execution was in 2009 when Matthew Wrinkles was put to death for killing his wife, her brother and sister-in-law in 1994. Since then, 13 executions were carried out in Indiana, but those were initiated and performed by federal officials in 2020 and 2021 at a federal prison in Terre Haute. State officials have said they couldn't continue executions because a combination of drugs used in lethal injections had become unavailable. For years, there has been a shortage across the country because pharmaceutical companies have refused to sell their products for that purpose. That's pushed states, including Indiana, to turn to compounding pharmacies, which manufacture drugs specifically for a client. Some use more accessible drugs such as the sedatives pentobarbital or midazolam, both of which, critics say, can cause intense pain. Religious groups, disability rights advocates, and others have opposed his execution. About a dozen people, some holding candles, held a vigil late Tuesday to pray outside the prison, which is surrounded by barbed wire fences in a residential area about 60 miles east of Chicago. We can build a society without giving governmental authorities the right to execute their own citizens, said Bishop Robert McClory of the Diocese of Gary, who led the prayers. Other death penalty opponents also demonstrated outside the prison Tuesday night, some holding signs that read "Execution is not the solution," and "Remember the victims but not with more killing." There is no need and no benefit from this execution. It's all show, said Abraham Borowitz, director of Death Penalty Action, his organization that protests every execution in the U.S. Prison officials said in a brief statement Tuesday evening that Corcoran requested Ben and Jerry's ice cream for his last meal. Corcoran said farewell late Tuesday to relatives, including his wife, Tahina Corcoran, who told reporters outside the prison that they discussed their faith and their memories, including attending high school together. She reiterated her request for Indiana's governor to commute her husband's death sentence.